Welcome home to Tall Poppy, the channel for flourishing upstarts and startups. This is the second installment of our initial interview with Latisha Taylor of healthmeasured.net. She is a fantastic, vibrant go-getter, started healthmeasured.net in the Bay Area, has been invited to speak at the Vatican, attend Davos, and is a UN ambassador for Women's Entrepreneur Day. Enjoy the second half and be inspired.
Commonly hear people say this, oh, I feel great. I said, well, you don't feel your arteries hardening and you don't feel cancer cells like growing in your body. This isn't about a feeling. We now can quantify it in a way that you know numerically what your body's defense score is. And then you technically have the choice of whether or not you want to improve that or whether you don't. But what's fascinating about it is that whether it's on the third visit or the fifth visit or the sixth visit, it's a biometric in an office, right? So you're going to get tested every time you come in. You have people that smoke for 10 years. On the fifth visit, they'll stop smoking because they can see something that they can relate to. And then they realize, oh my gosh, what I am doing every single day is a bad decision.
It's like the gold star at school.
Yes.
And there's no participation trophy here.
Yeah. No, there's not.
Because that's not going to change.
No.
So this brings in a whole slew of questions that we can ask, and if any of you have any questions about this, and especially from the medical community, just please bring them on, because the more that we can educate people and sort out anything that may not be clear, we'd love to do that.
Yes.
But for me, I've got many questions and include things like, so we've got these changing diets. So can you tell with this, and you should be able to tell with this, whether or not the keto diet is working for you, whether or not, an Atkins sort of diet, whether it's a paleo diet's going to be working for you. Are you getting enough from a vegetarian or a vegan diet? The big data on this is going to be phenomenal.
Well, the big data is phenomenal, but I have to ask you first, when we're looking at diet, what is the goal of the diet? Is the goal to lose weight? Because I think the keto diet is very effective. There's people that lose all kinds of weight, but the keto diet does not have a lot of antioxidant cellular protection because you're not eating fruits and vegetables. So
my husband's on a keto diet, and
Yes.
he's strict keto, but he does it for anti-inflammatory responses, and he is a doctor, and he has a slew of friends who are cardiologists and orthopedic surgeons and vascular surgeons just across the board, and there's a little group of them, and they're all runners, and they're all keen keto
Yes.
players, dieters, because not diet to lose weight, because none of them need to lose weight. They're doing it for the inflammatory and the cardioprotective things that they've seen reported. They're just basically anti-sugar, but anti-refined carbohydrates.
Yes.
But I also am concerned about this lack of macronutrients and micronutrients.
Yes.
And I see one doctor out there who's talking about a carnivore diet.
Yeah.
Where you're going to get your vitamin C. I mean, so there's a whole lot of, we are omnivores. I'm curious about this device maybe picking up inflammatory responses to people that might have no allergies, but you've got the segment that does have allergies that they're not aware of.
Yeah.
So, because that does impact how your free radical scavengers and everything else are behaving in your body.
Absolutely.
Taking it down to layman's terms.
Yes, yeah.
So, and we could get on to all the extended applications of this, but your company has this for individual use or private practice use, and I think you said enterprise use. And if you could explain what enterprise use is.
Yeah, so I was selected in a business pitch competition in the San Francisco Bay Area to talk about the scaling, thank you very much, into corporate wellness. And so you look at that industry. So in my mind, it was really simple. We were first of all testing an end user, right, which is going to be an individual or a patient. Obviously, a practitioner, we all listen to our doctors more
Sometimes.
Hopefully we should, right? Then maybe, somebody down the street. So you would want a tool that they would be able to explain, the test result and then make a recommendation, right? So a nutraceutical recommendation.
So this is the Human Resources Department making a recommendation?
So now into corporate wellness, which is where now we're going to, which gets into.
So I have a question
Yeah.
right at the start. Is concierge medicine maybe taking a deviation into corporate medicine? Are we going to see doctors more in the corporate environment rather than a...
Well, I mean, I think so. I mean, I'm in Silicon Valley, so I mean, these companies are trying to get individuals to live at their company for as long as possible, meaning as early in the morning to as late at night. And one of those benefits is convenience. And so we do see a lot of practitioners that are taking jobs at these companies. And so the way that we're working with enterprise right now is that we've done a few small pilot programs. So let me kind of share with you what we have figured out.
Yes, I'd love to hear it.
So if you can imagine this, so we've taken a union group in East Bay of San Francisco area. So think about, men and their they're blue-collar workers. They don't like to be told what to do.
They don't like seeing doctors.
They don't like seeing doctors.
It's a generalization.
Yeah. They think they got it all figured out. And so it was a 6-month program. We went in, we were able to test the group and get their baseline scores. And then we had a nutritionist come in and some supplementation recommendation. And you're always going to find that some people just want to work on their diet and some want the supplement recommendation and some want to do a combination of both. And we know that the combination of both gets the best outcomes. But we retested them every 2 months. And at the end was we found that they had an increase in their score on average by about 30%, which meant their inflammation decreased by 30%.
And can you back that up with all those other standard
Yes.
and inflammation, just so that you can publish that?
Well, this was the very first
Okay.
beta. This was the very first. If there's somebody that wants to do that, we can definitely do that.
Make sure that she's cited on the paper.
Yes, make sure I'm cited on the paper, please.
Papers.
But then what they did is they took it back to, it was enough information without that. So you're thinking about it from the medical standpoint, right? Of course, we have to compare it to all of our inflammatory markers, right?
But but the thing is, then it proves it, because when you're talking about data, you have to. It's replicable and repeatable.
Oh, I get it. But think about this. This is why I think there's this huge opportunity here, is that this company took a small company to their insurers, and they gave them better rates.
That's fantastic.
Without that other information. So I think if we're spending in enterprise wellness $3 billion or $6 billion with a 3% return, you and I would not make that investment. That's a bad investment. So, you have no idea when you're incentivizing your employees to go work out if on the way from the gym, they stop at Krispy Kreme and McDonald's. That kind of defeats the purpose. So what we do know that's factual is that a diet that's rich in fruits and vegetables, and really it's the micro and the macronutrients that come from that intake, that those people have less disease, period, across the board. So, I mean, that's already been proven in hundreds of thousands of clinical studies. So with this information, I think that what we can do is we offer an end-to-end solution for these enterprises where they can say, hey, listen, we're going to test you. We're going to educate you, whether that's through a practitioner coming in or whether that's through an online program. We're going to retest you so we can see how it's working in your body and or you're being compliant. So if they're, paying for the entire supplementation or they're paying for half of it, and then we can directly measure that to see how that impacts their insurance
So
costs.
have you had any questions about privacy?
Yes.
And extending it out? Are people scared that if they don't comply or don't use this, that they'll be a condition of employment?
There's always, I mean, I look at Walgreens right now. They have a very aggressive corporate wellness program that's really around, if you have too much of a waist circumference, they actually increase your
A BMI.
Your BMI. They increase your insurance.
Because that's a personal choice. Sorry, guys, that basically is. Despite any so-called pre-existing conditions, it's your choice what you put in, and it's your choice what you burn off to a great extent. Yeah,
it works effectively. I mean, the lady down the street, she's probably lost 30 pounds. So with the technology, let's go back to this HIPAA compliant. So with the technology, it's already HIPAA compliant. So the test results only go to the individual person. So whether it's the patient. So in the office, obviously, those are going to be charted. And then when you recall the patient back in, it will be graphed out.
And that'll be the doctor's office, not the human resources office.
Yes, correct. So in corporate wellness, the way that the HR department likes to deal with it is they do not keep individual test scores for people.
They'll just get the aggregated
group test result. This is how we're doing.
Yes.
Yep, this is how we're doing as a corporation. This is our before, this is our after, and you can see that shift on the bell curve. So that's the way that they've...
And you can almost see that this would be a benefit for advertising for certain types of workers that you want in your company. Say, you know, we're in the top 10% of the defense scale.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you go, oh, yeah, well...
Yeah, our employees are healthier, they have less injury, they're on less medications than any other, you know, tech company.
Great for the stockholder, great for everyone
totally.
All around, yeah.
You earn more days off, you're better well rested. I mean, whatever, the sky's the limit when it comes to this.
Yeah. It's part of that negotiating. If I'm staying fit, you better give me 10 days off a year to go racing.
Absolutely, are you kidding? I mean, I want to go yachting.
Climb Mount Everest.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily so healthy for you.
Right.
So you got invited to the Vatican.
Yes.
How? And first of all, are you Catholic?
I am not Catholic. I'm Christian, but I did get invited to the Vatican. So I was at the World Economic Forum and...
which was in Davos.
Yes.
She was invited to Davos.
Yes.
So, okay, we better backpedal here.
Yes, okay, yes.
How did you get invited to Davos?
Okay, so I was doing this business pitch competition, and they said, we would like you to be a delegate for Women's Entrepreneurship Day in San Francisco. And I ended up doing, a great job. And then they said, there's a regional position. Do you want to come back up to your hometown? And I thought, yes, for a couple of reasons. One is, I would love to bring something back to my hometown and get involved in the business community. I have family here, so I like that. But then number two is that I really think that the quality of life is so important. And we talk about it, but we don't know how to really provide examples of it. And so, you know, way back in the olden days when I graduated from college, way back when people kind of started to use the internet. And so now, I mean, you can live anywhere. I mean, you know, you live anywhere, you do business with people, you just Skype in. And so I wanted to really create kind of like a bridge between companies there and here where people could find, you know, quality individuals that they could work with. And so that was part of the reason. And so through Women's Entrepreneurship Day, I got invited to Davos, represented the United States there, which was a lot of fun. And if you have not been, let me tell you, first of all, what the World Economic Forum is like, because you're going to get a good laugh. So first of all, you have every CEO and world leader there. It's this small, tiny little town in Switzerland. Yeah, in Switzerland. And there's only a couple roads in and a couple roads out. So
there's something out to the Matterhorn.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's not a lot of traffic and there's not a lot of people that are let in. And so you have all these people that run companies, but they don't have their assistant there. So nobody knows the scheduling. There's like 20 different schedules that are happening at the same time. And so everyone's lost and you're constantly like running into people and getting in cars with people that you don't know. And so you're like, oh, hey, Josie, it's so nice to meet you. What do you do? And you're like exchange. I think I got rid of like 500 business cards. So I was there.
Well, you're in the car a lot.
Well, you know, you're like in the car, but you're walking down the street. Is this that building? Is this where that event is? And so people are just like, lost and trying to help one another, but I think they do it intentionally because you have to talk to people. It's so smart of them. And so I ended up meeting a representative who works with the Vatican, and they have this program called Humanity 2.0. And I was shocked to find this out, that as a first world country, as the United States, we have the most amount of deaths for women of childbearing age. That it's skyrocketed, like almost by 70%.
We don't have the highest in the world.
We do have the highest in the world.
Oh, because my statistics not looked at. I'll have to relook at the statistics. So if you could send me the details on that, I'd be
or maybe
fascinated.
That it jumped up 70%, but I like.
Yeah, it's not the highest in the world because there are certain countries I know of, and I won't name, that have the highest maternal deaths. So
it was a skyrocketing jump. So what they were looking at why. What's the reason why? So one of the companies they partnered up with was looking at environment, like lighting, how that impacts your circadian rhythm, your sleep patterns, the amount of stress, how that impacts your body. And
Well,
so
lack of stress and lack of sleep can affect your human growth hormone
tremendously,
vastly, and your cortisol and your
everything.
C-reactive protein, and
Yes.
you're needing more free radical scavengers out there.
Yes, definitely. And so I said, well, hey, listen, if you guys are going to talk about nutrition, which I would assume that when it comes to nutrition, there's supplementation, right? Those are two separate categories that are both equally important. So what you're putting into your mouth, and then how are you supplementing the food? Because our food sources are compromised. They don't have the same amount of macro and micronutrients.
As you were saying, we're also light compromised because, it affects, if we're not used to that darkness coming in naturally, then it affects our melatonin, and then we're talking about human growth hormone and
all of those,
dealing with all the stresses. So it's not any food quality, it's light quality.
Yes.
It's everything quality.
Everything. And so the Vatican was looking at a way of they want to have a program that will reach people and touch their hearts. And they're like, listen, every one of us have a mother. Realistically, and if we want the future generations to be off better than we are, they're going to come through our moms. And so I said, well, if you're going to test, if you want an objective way to look at nutrition, we have the global exclusivity on this technology for the next 19 years. And it's objective. And so I don't think I know, because of working with doctors, they are not salespeople at all. They don't like it. They don't like convincing people to do anything, but they can read a test result and they can tell you what to do. And the real value is then bringing them back in to see that improvement in nutrition levels, that decrease in inflammation. So we have a case study that we did, 5,000 patients over 5 years out of Chicago. I'll kind of give you a background and makeup of this patient population. They don't really have a bank account. They kind of have like a mattress bank account, so they don't have a lot of extra income, but they were willing to spend $2 a day in supplementation. And they saw there a 28% decrease in gestational diabetes. They saw a decrease in inflammation. They saw a decrease in early births. And then about 50% of those patients stayed on and or put their spouse on supplementation afterwards because they thought that it provided such a good value.
I have a question.
Yeah.
They put their own money into it. They invested into themselves.
Yes.
Would the data be different if someone had just given it to them?
So we don't know the answer to that question,
and
but I'm glad.
That's a study that we need to do because when you've got your own skin in the game, you tend to be a lot more compliant.
So just so you know, right now, the way the whole program is set up is that, we did a lot of research when it comes to supplement companies. They are not the same. They are not regulated.
Oh, and so we have a question about your supplement, because you also have a line of supplements, nutraceuticals, you call them.
Yes.
So when I was involved on the periphery of supplementation development a few years ago, there was only about 6 different companies in America that actually packaged them. So you had all these thousands of brands on the shelves.
Yes.
But for the most part, there's only a handful of companies that actually produce them, white label them, and then then they go off to their different little marketplaces. Where do you get yours made? And you get them tested.
Of course, of course, of course.
But so where do you get yours made?
So they're made in the United States. So we have a manufacturing plant. We have one in Utah, one in Wisconsin.
And are they just exclusively for you?
Yeah. So let's talk about that because
so you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do understand. So what was fascinating about me is we're really a company of mergers and acquisitions is really what we are. So as opposed to going out and hiring a bunch of scientists, I wanted to learn about this space. And that's when I was shocked to find out that it's unregulated. You and I could go start a supplement company tomorrow and call it, Red Poppies or whatever we would like. And say that, it had some sort of benefit, but not have any clinical substantiation. The other thing that's interesting about the supplement space, and I really think it's important that we draw this out for people.
I have to correct you. Yeah. I actually have developed a number of supplements, and it hasn't come to market yet because that's part of that, exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. It has to be validated and verified.
It has to be validated and verified. Oh my gosh, how funny. Okay, so you already know that. Yes. And then the other thing that with supplementation is It's about a $56 million industry just inside the United States, right? Of a lot of people having no idea if what they're taking is actually working.
Or if there's what's on the bottle is actually in the capsule.
Let's talk about that. Okay, that is true too. Yes, and so I ended up finding a company that was started by 3 drug developers for Wyeth Pharmaceuticals, Merck Pharmaceuticals, and a scientist at Stanford. The 3 of them were responsible for the birth control pill, the first statin medication, and the second, I know, organ-leading transplant drug. I know, but well, this is why they started that company, because they started off with that statin medication. Here's why. Is when they found that they would take, just like there's conferences for everything, there's natural ingredient conferences that you can go to.
They're huge.
They're huge. I had no idea. So, you learn something. And they would meet up there and they would talk about their frustration because they would find a molecule that had been beneficial, bring it back to the lab. They would synthesize it. They would make a pharmaceutical drug, statin medication, and it would have 25% side effects. That's just kind of the average for most drug responses. I mean, they have 5 or 6, different side effects at about a 20 percentile. So 1 in 5 is going to experience them. And they just were like, listen, what if we took these molecules, we isolated them, but we didn't synthesize them? What if we kept them whole? And we provided the same quality control manufacturing that we did in the pharmaceutical space. What if we did that?
So this is interesting because it's very similar to the theory that psilocybin, which is the active ingredient, the active ingredient magic mushrooms, is being synthesized with, I think it's a sulfur type molecule added to it for migraines.
Yeah. So these are being non-synthesized, so they're staying the same molecule. So they raised $46 million on their own through VC Capital.
Brilliant.
And
good job, guys.
Yeah, they're the largest independently funded supplement company still to date. And so we've created a partnership with them. And they have 75 full-time PhD level scientists of 12 different disciplines.
So you have a direct
relationship with them. Yes. And
do they have a relationship with anybody else? So you're the sole people that they're working with? To date?
Yes, to date.
So
yes.
How many scientists and how many universities are these people?
So there's a 75 PhD level scientists, 12 different disciplines, and which I think it's so important, right? So you can't be an expert anymore in just one area. It's impossible. But they have created about 40 different products. 8 of them are in the physician's desk reference. So they have double-blind, placebo-controlled trial products on the end product, which leads me to another myth of the supplement space. People will do clinical trials on an ingredient in the product, but not the actual end product. So the one that I think is just most riveting is they just completed a functional MRI study to look at how your brain responds underneath stress. So it actually slows down your synapses so that your brain can relax and can fire better so that you have better recall underneath stress.
I am so curious about what this is because the brain is my...
I know. I'll send you the clinical research. You can put it online. Yeah.
Oh, no, seriously. This is just fascinating because there's a lot of things that will be coming out. We're expecting by 2020, which are, have been around for a long time, but then were made illegal and made Schedule 1.
Yes.
But, and that's going to be exciting for those to come out for a clinical use. And,
absolutely.
So I'm sure these guys, part of their funding comes from publishing. So I'm sure that there's just going to be a whole slew of papers that are going to be churning out because these people have associations with, name the universities.
So Stanford, Harvard, Yale, Scripps, Purdue, UC Davis. So what attracted me to them, and you asked about this third-party validation, right? Oh, are you testing? So we not only have independent tests and certifications on the end product, but we do in-house, they do in-house clinical research, and then they say, hey, Stanford, we've done this clinical research. Would you like to do a study on these products yourself? And so then you have, I've worked with Stanford for years. They're obviously extremely regimented in what they do. And I thought, wow, these people are aligning their credibility with the company. You can't get a better checks and balances when it comes to high quality nutraceuticals that really work. And I think the other value for patients is that they allow you to do a clinical study in yourself. meaning you can try the product for 60 to 90 days and then get retested. And if your score doesn't improve or you don't feel better, they actually give you your money back. So
interesting.
It's a great way, again, where we're really looking for that outcome. We're really looking to help correct.
So to start the company, you got your friend was visiting with you when you're in Utah,
Yes.
and it sparked the idea.
Yep.
March us through the steps of how you actually created, and did you have to raise capital? How much was it? Unpack this process.
Unpack the process for us. So so it came back. So the manufacturer was already in, again, mergers and acquisitions. The manufacturer was already put into place. The technology, they had already raised money for that. What they were looking for is they were looking for business development arms to go out and be able to go into this healthcare space.
And at that time, the company had not been formed, or because you're a co-founder, so you brought all these parts together?
Yeah, so Health Measured is my company, and I created licensing agreements with these other two individuals. And so we have went out, and we're the only people that are doing this within this healthcare space, and it's been amazing. I mean, let me tell you about the first doctor we started working with in the Bay Area. I mean, it was a Mayo-trained oncologist who was a medical director at 3 hospitals up there, and obviously saw a lot of patients. Smart businessman as well, so can wear both hats, and opened up the first integrative medicine program in the Bay Area. Now to date, that program, the medical director for that program sits on the state board for California and writes all the policies for the acupuncture program. And they've been doing clinical studies with this technology and the products in cancer patients for like 6 years. One of the unique findings, since you're all about the brain, is that when people also have a low score, they have a higher anxiety levels. So it's, it goes back to this data creates information that creates hopefully meaning and
understanding, right?
Yeah.
But I also think that data, when you get to that understanding point, creates a point of action.
Of course, it has to. Otherwise, we're not doing any good.
Right. We're just accumulating.
We're not doing every good. So every now and again, we'll get somebody that, I'll be working in coaching with the providers, like, oh, I ran 20 tests. And I'm like, that's like giving somebody an x-ray and telling them they have a cavity and then telling them to go home and fix it. Like, that doesn't help unless we do something.
Yeah, it has to be a point of action.
There has to be a point of
action.
action.
And even if you choose not to act, that's still a choice. Yeah. So I'm just really curious. So there is the device.
Yep.
There was the device. You got the license for the device.
Yes.
And then you connected it to all these nutraceuticals.
Yes.
Which are micronized and high potency and are measured by this device. Yes. So that's your company. And then you go out to doctors and corporations and you provide this service. Do you gather the data for even larger big data? That's the $1 million question right there.
Yeah. So we have some things that we're working in place right now to do exactly that.
Because I'd negotiate that's part of the joy of using it, is that they have to share the love.
Yeah, that they have
share
to
the data.
They have to share the data. Well, and because really, if we're looking at changing the healthcare system, which I strongly believe right now that we can, there's enough pain that people realize that, being a reactionary-based system where we wait for a disease to occur.
And you're talking about the individuals being reactionary-based systems.
I'm talking about providers and testing, meaning, do you have some sort of disease that is occurring now versus how many risk factors do you have on the preventative side? And people are going towards preventative, don't get me wrong.
And we hope so.
But this precision medicine thing, that's what I'm getting a little bit more at.
Yeah.
Some of that precision.
But you also have to precision patients.
Yes.
And this sounds like it could actually help drive them to be more educated, or certainly proactive.
Yeah.
Especially if it's visually measurable.
Absolutely.
It could be part of a dating scene. When they
my gosh, I said that so many times. I'm like, you put it on your profile. Like, here's my score. This is how it
Here's my defense score next to my credit score.
Well, it's funny you say that. So, like, I as a Plan B option, I got my eggs frozen like 3 years ago, and inflammation is a part of this whole thing. And so I'm going and I'm talking to my doctor, and I'm telling her about this epigenetic line of supplements that we have that really.
I love the whole study of epigenetics. It's just
Love it.
So much there. We can do a talk on that.
We totally can. And so I was telling her all about that. And so for people that don't know, typically when you go in for a round of IVF, people will get about anywhere from like 8 to 12 eggs, maybe per round. I was determined, obviously, to take these epigenetic...
High achiever.
Yes, of course. Epigenetic products, which basically slows down, turns back on your genes, your DNA, so that it's optimized. So I use a couple different epigenetic products, and of course high antioxidants. So one round of IVF, I got 32 eggs.
No way.
Yeah, 32 eggs, 24 of them were healthy, banked. And she was like, what is this magic stuff that you're on? And I'm like, think about that. I mean, most people...
You must have been a walking ovary.
Well, I'm not sure. So my original scores were just normal. It was not like I was, high on anything or low. I was just normal. And I think that what this really speaks to is proper nutrition. This really speaks to our bodies, our vehicle to get us through life. So it's our responsibility to take care of our car. And most of us worry about what our car looks like from the outside. Right? Did we paint our nails? Did our hair is our hair done? This body defense score is really how attractive you are from the inside. Biochemical perspective, definitely.
Biochemically pretty.
Exactly. And how that's going to affect your quality of life.
Oh.
100%. And that to me, I think, is more of a value.
I'd love to see a long-term study done on this in cognitive levels and measures.
Yes.
As we're aging.
Yes.
That would be really, really interesting.
Well, I'm sure if we can find some doctors out there that want to participate.
Well, we need the money to run the study.
We do need the money to run the study, but I find the money to run the clinical studies are easier. We are talking with one insurance company right now that's actually considering doing a pilot study of, and we're figuring out the parameters. I can't tell you who, but for them actually covering the supplementation. And we want to look at, because I can tell you, coming from the data perspective and then the collection of this data, is that people get off their blood pressure medication and they get off their statin medications and their body heals themselves. And if we can reduce those healthcare costs, everyone's starting to see right now that we're spending so much money, but we're not having necessarily the amount of outcomes that we would like to have.
And I think people also are wanting to become more in control of their health.
Yeah.
And the largest way you can control your health is to have your health controlled and be maximized. And so this is something that they might be interested in, and you might be able to find a pool of people that could get together and maybe there's so many options that you have here.
Yes.
So I'm going to just quickly wrap up here because I hate to finish this conversation because we could go on for hours. And this is the first of our many, many visits with Latisha. And of course, we really want to hear from you. Post your comments, subscribe, because anytime we have any news for Latisha, we can post them, and then also any updates that we have when we visit together. So when I go down to the Bay Area, which I love,
perfect.
We can sort of do a little update there, but just keep us in the loop. So this is our little pearl of wisdom, and we'll hand it to you. And my question is, so there's a saying that says, your future is larger than your past. So with that quote in mind, how big is your future going to be in the next few months? What are you going to be doing to make it?
So I know exactly what we're doing is we have figured out this integration inside practitioners' offices. So automating that system so that people can be certified, we'll be able to impact about 20%, I think, of the practitioners that are in private practice today. So that's what we're working on. We're working on
scalability?
The scalability. So the scalability for the medical assistants that help out, because there's a high turnover rate there, as well as a certification for the practitioners. Most practitioners only have about 4 to 6 hours of nutritional training. And so, while the test is a great tool, they also want to have some other information that they feel, really confident about. So that's what we're going to be doing.
We look forward to visiting with you next time. And if anyone needs to find you,
You can find me at Tish, T-I-S-H, at healthmeasured.net. And you can find us at healthmeasured.net. Please, we look forward to working with you.
We look forward to our visit next time and to following your journey.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the video. I know that you're excited in following these people. Hit like, hit subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you in your journey too.